morning, my fellow citizens. Good morning, my viewers. Good morning, brothers and sisters out there. I've come again on this episode to finish the topic, symbolisms of blood rituals in our culture as Igbo people or as Biafrans. Today, I am taking on the topic self-sacrifice. We have discussion on oblation and anticipation sacrifice. We have discussion on propitiation sacrifice. We have discussion on reconciliation sacrifice. Today, we are centering our discussion on self-sacrifice in our culture. What is the self-sacrifice in our culture? Number one, I would like to cite the example of personal growth. You, as a man, what you desire before the priest is different from what the culture holds. So this is the direction of personal sacrifice we are going to discuss today. We are not discussing vis-a-vis the intrigues in the necromancy of all application. No, we are going to point out those personal sacrifices that is reflected as part of our culture. Now, in personal sacrifices, you cannot think about the philosophy of man, the ideology of man. You know, in the spiritus bonus spiritus, it is a principle where the crowd there of the acronesia of spiritu bonitus is that which has to do with individual philosophy. In that came magic, right? Yes, in that came magic. But in that Rontic spiritus application, our own culture is not centered on the magical and the charm aspect of it in the personal sacrifice. How do I mean? Let me use Okite as an example. It is a trending philosophy, an ideology of personal sacrifice. An ideology of personal sacrifice. I want this. This is how I want my life to be. This is what I want. This is how I want it. Now, these are personal demands, like what the heart conceived he wants to achieve personally, outside his destiny, outside what God proportioned for him. Those are personal sacrifices where it comes in our culture. Now, where someone will say, I want to be rich, I don't care whatsoever thing it will take me. Now, in that kind of decision, you are no longer bowing to the sufficiency principle. You are now going into greed. You are now going into greed. And that greed is outside the principle of existence, outside the principle of these Krausia instructions of human families. Akranosia in the sense that it is of the fentus me-fainting. So, how do I mean? These decisions that we make personally is on our own, not guided by the umbrella of the principle of governance. Rather, it is guided on the principle of self-desire. self wants. Remember, the scripture says, I give you light and darkness. Then I advise you to choose light that ye might live. You know, he is there. But our culture is that advises you to choose life that we might live. And now, due to the situation of the archimere in the mysteries of the Father, people, out of their own wisdom, create these charms. It is not in the principle of the culture. And now these personal sacrificial ideologies that are not attached to the necromancy of the culture for general purpose becomes more visible as the culture of the environment, whereas it is human ideology, human institution, human acronesia. That is the principle. In personal sacrifice of our culture, that which has to do with our culture is that man fulfill his obligation to live a good life and achieve his purpose on earth. That which is required of the spirit for man to continue moving, for the energy of man to continue to grow strong individually, are the self-sacrifice associated with our culture. Our culture is not charm-oriented. Charm in the culture is the wisdom of man, ideology, the logical input in the principle that is existing, acts of pure darkness. Out of pure darkness. Out of pure darkness. So those personal sacrifices like Okite is pure darkness. Personal sacrifices like charm to sell market is pure darkness. It is manipulation. And that manipulates the human soul is guilty of condemnation. Because men are not to be compelled. So in your charm of Okite, you have compelled the excesses of nature, and you are guilty of a charge for destruction. It doesn't matter what you enjoy today. What matters is where you rest tomorrow. So that our focus today is on money. Everybody just wants money. So because you want money, you will go and do Okite. But if you want to fulfill your mission on earth, the reason for sending you here, the reason for you to be born as a man, then you require the personal sacrifices of fulfilling the cultural residence of your existence. And that is what makes you who you are. That is what gives you the liberty of existence. He said, upon all spirit, whether be it good or evil. Upon all spirit, whether be it good or evil, mankind is obliged to use. It's a principle, it's written. These are higher orders anyway. So you as a man, you have right to use the good spirit, you have right to use the evil spirit. But what matters is, in the intent of your personal decision for the use of this evil or good spirit, is it to the detriment or towards manipulation of mankind? If it is towards manipulation of mankind, you are guilty. But if it is towards manipulation of material, it is given unto man that light and darkness will fight for him. Try to understand that principle. Try to understand that principle. So if you are evil and you want to kill me, in my culture, I don't need to prepare charm. I only need to pay a sacrifice to the spirit of death to judge you and me why you want to kill me. If your reason for trying to kill me is right, then you will live. If it is not right, then the spirit of death will feed on you and your generation. I will leave. You see? Now, the spirit does the work, not the charm. Not the charm. It's not because he wore the clothes like the Western world, the churches make us to believe that it is the clothes. Their own priesthood is on the clothes they wear. I want you to understand that. Then in the Pentecostal, their own priesthood is on the altar they stand. They don't carry it as a human being. No, there is no power in them. There is no priesthood in them. Rather, their priesthood is their altar. And in the Western community, their priesthood is the shirt they wear. That is what describes their priesthood. But in our culture, it is neither described by clothes nor by altar. It is described by self-position. It's not, and it is out of the self-sacrifices that brought you to that level of being called a priest. Those are other self-sacrifices that our culture entails for individual. So let us now look into another example of self-sacrifice. I found over the media one of the security operatives, either in Ondo or somewhere in the West, if I'm not mistaken, a spiritualist was caught with some charms, bulletproof charm, you know, and it was displayed online. Personal sacrifice. Now, the individual goes to buy this bulletproof charm. For what purpose? To terrorize the human family. To terrorize the human family. And now, that personal sacrifice performed in our culture unto a spirit for protection, and the charm that you wear. In our culture, it is not charm oriented, it's spirit oriented. Now, if peradventure the enemy plan to strike community today, and you as a spirit oriented entity who has fulfilled its cultural duty will be the instrument of delivering that community from the hand of these charms. It will look like a magic, but it's not magic. That is when you see how the spirit works. It is by the spirit, it's not by power. It's not because we carry gun. No. In our culture, we rely more on the spirit, not our own strength. As to our strength, we are weak. But with the strength of the spirit, we can do all things personally. So those personal sacrifices that help us to fulfill this position is other kind of sacrifice, blood rituals that are required in our culture to stand a man in his appropriate line of achievement. Let me cite another example of that, of personal sacrifices. I was at a place, a spiritual place. Something happened. The priest was approaching. Now, the idea was not to kill the priest, but the idea was to test his ability. Now, the priest was approaching with his foot towards his altar, and an obstruction was breached to see if there is something could be done to stop him not to reach his altar. Right before every other person's eyes, lo and behold, the priest that was walking with his foot, with his legs coming, at that instance of attack, we found him at the altar standing and looking at the people that want to stop him not to come. In that study, I asked a question. Master, why why didn't you do this thing from your house and come to the altar now? Why did you have to walk? Then he laughed. He said, this is the part of the culture that you need to understand. Let me put something straight to you. This year is my 21 years as a native doctor. But I have not used it to make money from anybody or prepare anything for anybody. Rather, I came into the cadre because of his calling, and then I started to study the culture, to separate it, because the reason why my father sent me to school is not for me to come and look for work. He told me that if it were for you to go and look for work, I will not spend my money to train you. You can take care of yourself. But I want you to understand the language of the white man so that you can be able to separate your mission from the world. And that has been ringing in my head from my childhood to date. So I did not go to study because I am looking for your money. I studied because I want to understand the languages and how we can separate this darkness from the light of our existence. And that is what we are doing. That is the calling we are here for. So now he now taught me something. He said that the power is with you. It's not for you to exercise it. At the time, it will be exercised. I didn't understand that language. That night, in the house, assassins were sent to come and assassinate him. This happened in my very before, right here in Imo State. I have a master who said his duty is to teach me. And the day I finished my operation and be announced as the high prince is the day he died. After handing over his destiny, he died. He went to him and said, today I have fulfilled my mission to prepare AMADIOHA. Let me go home and rest. We thought he's going home to rest under someone who has worked for 7 weeks without resting. Maybe he wants to go and relax at home and rest. Only for us to hear after 2 hours that the man who we are with, who prepared me, is dead. And he says something. He told me, when the people came, something happened. He used to teach us something. And when they boarded the place, there was rapid shooting. Rapid shooting. Rapid shooting. We are all standing watching him. It looks as if the bullet is not reaching him or the bullet is hitting him. We cannot explain. But when the people feel that the metal is not a threat to him, they try to perform something. And before us, he vanished. He vanished. And it was like, he did not do it by himself. We didn't find him. Before our very presence, he vanished. The people were filled with amazement, and there was scatter runnings everywhere. People scampering for their safety. And at the end of the whole scenario, to cut this long story short, he was inside the temple, inside the room. And there he taught us the principle of disappearing in our culture. It is not a charm he hanged. But at that time, because he has fulfilled the rights unto that kata, at that time that he is in danger of, there is nothing else to do, they want to apprehend him, he was nowhere to be found. That is the secret of charm and our culture. Now he now taught us the disappearing charm that people do, and you can catch them there within. But the spirit in your mind, as soon as you conceive it, it's done. He takes you where your mind tells you that you are going. This is how it works. Personal sacrifice. Personal sacrifice. I'm teaching you personal sacrifice in our culture. This is another level of personal. These are things we demand. In the time of danger, what do we do? How do we do it? What will I do to be a savior of mankind? Personal sacrifice. This is what our culture requires. Not what will you do to be the richest man. Riches is not counted as achievement in our culture. Because by and by, man must be rich, man must be fed, man must be sufficiently owned. So it is not a criteria in our culture to classify any man in that direction. But those things that our personal sacrifice require in the culture is what I am telling you now. The line of personal sacrifices outside the charm. The charm is individual ideology. Now you go, they give you charm, carry bangle, one amulet give you, you put on your neck, they say it's bulletproof. They shoot you, you know, enter. Sorry, it's your name. What have you asked? What if that thing comes? Maybe that's the end. Then if somebody now come and take that thing away from you, that is also the end. You see? But in our culture, it is the wind that we give the rights. Let me reveal a secret to you now. Listen, both the army and the police, everybody is controlled by the wind. At that instance, let me teach you what you don't know. As ESN and police is battling, army is battling, if you fulfill the right cultural demand of Igbo, now you will be aligned with the power of the wind controls you. And that battlefront, in as much as it is the right cause you are fighting for, let me tell you, the wind will take over. Their bullet will kill them. Your own bullet will also kill them. Let me tell you, at the time they say they are invading your camp, it is impossible. Before even they plan invading your camp, you know. When they will come, you know. None will go. So this is what our culture gives us, not charm. Because when you remove the charm and keep, you are nothing. You are nothing. So in our culture, we are not charm-oriented. We are not charm-oriented. We are spirit-oriented. And the spirit is the power of the wind. By the machete, it is the wind that controls your hand. It is the wind that controls your strength. It is the wind that does everything. When you perform that alignment, personal sacrifice with the wind, you become part of the wind. The wind moves you. That is what it means by the wind of change in the necromancy of black magic. At that time, the spirit of the wind comes in because you have paid the right, you have paid the price. But in as much as you have gone outside that principle of which you have been stood, you are on your own. You are on your own. Anything you see, you take it. The spirit will not be there because you have erred. You have gone astray. Let me tell you one example. When I was studying, a man was prepared in this gather. And at the end of the day, he resorted into a criminal. The information came to my master that you are one of your boys, so he has turned to robbing people. He said, what? And they say he's your boy. They know they feel kill him. When they catch him, he go disappear. So, investigation was sent. Master said, Oberibu mbukwara onwe I only prepared you for the safety of the community, not for you to rob people. Let the spirit judge. That day, he left with his machine. Now, gun did not kill him. Moto did not kill him. He killed himself. That is our culture. That's how it works. Police did not chase him. He has to go and kill himself by hanging himself. What led him to hang himself, he does not know. Because he has committed. He is guilty. And he is being wanted. He has to go and hang himself. That is the same thing with Judas. Have you asked yourself why did Judas erred and hang himself? That is what our culture teaches. That time that you know that you have erred, you know that there's no other road for you. You have messed yourself up. The only solution is for you to go and to just delete yourself by yourself. Something will happen and you are gone. So if you now tell me that our brothers are fighting, their camp is invaded, those are far stories. Why is ESN a problem if Omotekul is existing? personal sacrifices. These are the areas of personal sacrifices I want to talk about. Concerning the Magia Abba, take notice that all good spirits must be cited whenever the presence of the 9 choirs of angels as well as other good angel spirits act together. So there are Magia Abba spirits of good. There are also Magia Abba spirits of evil. And then there are angels of good, and also there are angels that are spirit too. You see, there are angels that are spirit. There are angels. And then in the Magia order, there are spirits that are good inside the Magia principle of the Magia Negra. Magia Negra. So this, inside this order, is where you find these personal sacrifices of choice. Some now do their own personal sacrifices that they will turn to water. It is not you that is turning to water. At that time that it is said that the enemy is taking you, there's no other hope, water will come and do his work. You dissolve. It's like for someone that vanished. The wind will take you away. You will be quickened. That is what our own disappearing means. The wind will quicken you and take you to another position. You will be quickened to move. As the fastest, at every fastest limit of your movement, you can be changed in a position in a second. The position will change. That is what the wind does in our culture. Not that because you have an ornament or element anywhere. No, it is the wind. Those are what personal sacrifices talk. The other personal sacrifices is okay when that time, because you have aligned yourself with the earth, with the rock. At that time you turn to rock. As I'm sitting down here, I became rock. You will come here, you will not see me. I'll be sitting down here looking at you. You can't find me. These are personal sacrifices of our culture. And now, when men resort onto these levels, they begin to perpetrate evil with it. Now that knowledge ceased. The black magic of the Magia Abba becomes what is eminent. Our culture is hidden. And that is what we want to bring out. So that our children will know to what source, to what extent they will look towards the remission of their sins and the exaltation to the kingdom of Aleze, the kingdom of the kings. That is where we own our existence. That is where our power, our final destination lies. I wish you well. I hope this lecture make meaning to you. I hope this lecture will help you to make a research towards finding yourself and knowing the personal sacrifices that is necessary towards your existence and accomplishing your mission here on earth. Subscribe with our channel, follow our teachings, ask us questions, like what we do, also dislike what we do, and tell us where we need to improve. This is our humble plea. We want to also use this meeting to thank YouTube for assisting us so far to see that our people receive this information through their channels, through their medium. We love you and we wish you well.